I was broke, tired, and just trying to survive, delivering groceries to rich people who barely saw me. But one delivery changed everything. One knock, one smile, and suddenly, I wasn't just a delivery girl. I was the woman who turned a billionaire's world upside down, with love he never saw coming. Hey, love, if you believe love can bloom in the most unexpected places, like a stranger's doorstep, stick around. This one's for you. Don't forget to like, comment your favorite moment, and subscribe for more real, heart melting love stories. I wasn't always strong. I mean, I had to be. But inside, I was tired. Just a regular black woman trying to make ends meet in a world that barely noticed me. I lived paycheck to paycheck, juggling two jobs, sometimes three, just to keep the lights on. My mornings started before sunrise and ended well past midnight, but still, it never felt like enough. I worked at a diner on weekends, cleaned offices during the week, and in between all that, I started delivering groceries. Not because I wanted to, but because it was the only gig that fit into the cracks of my life. It was humbling. Walking into these fancy homes with marble floors and gold door handles just to drop off bags they couldn't even carry themselves. No one ever looked at me. I was invisible, just another worker with a name tag and a barcode scanner. My dreams? They were tucked away in some dusty corner of my heart. I used to want to open a bakery, maybe write a book someday. But when rent is due and your stomach is growling, dreams feel like a luxury. No one ever looked at me like I mattered, not until that one delivery. It was supposed to be just another delivery, another rich customer, another oversized house, another door that might not even open all the way. I remember the address. It stood out, quiet street, gated driveway, the kind of house that looked like it belonged in a movie. I double-checked the bags in my trunk. Everything was there. Organic kale, imported cheese, and one tiny jar of local honey. Funny how people with so much ordered such little things. I walked up the long driveway, trying not to slip on the slick stone path. It had just rained, and the whole place smelled like wet pine and money. When I rang the bell, I was expecting a maid or maybe one of those house managers in a suit. But instead, he opened the door, tall, salt and pepper hair, sharp jawline. But it was his eyes that hit me. They were tired, kind, and so full of sadness it almost made me look away. He looked at me like he didn't expect me. Or anyone, really. "Let me help you with those," he said, reaching for the bags. I froze for a second. Nobody ever offered to help me, not in that world. I smiled, unsure, and handed him a few. We didn't talk much, just polite thank yous and drive safe. But as I walked back to my car, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Seen. I kept thinking about his eyes, his voice, the way he looked right at me, not through me. I didn't know it yet, but that delivery, that one simple knock, was the beginning of everything. It was the day I unknowingly walked into the heart of a man who seemed to have it all, but was missing everything that really mattered. The next time I got a delivery ping from that same address, my heart did a little flip. I told myself it was just another job, but something about it felt different. When I pulled up to the house again, he was already standing at the door like he'd been waiting. He smiled and said, "You came back." I laughed and said, "Well, it is my job," trying to keep it casual, even though I was nervous. That day, he asked me how my day was going, not the usual small talk. He actually waited for my answer. I told him about a rude customer earlier, how someone slammed the door in my face. He listened, really listened, and said, "People don't see how hard you work, do they?" I blinked. No one ever noticed that. Over the next few weeks, he kept ordering, always during my shifts, always requesting me. I thought maybe it was coincidence. Maybe he just liked the service. But then he started remembering little things I told him. He'd ask, "Did your feet stop hurting from that double shift?" Or, "How's your mom doing?" I didn't even remember telling him some of those things. One day, he invited me to sit on the porch for just a minute. "You've been on your feet all day," he said. I hesitated, but sat. That 5-minute break turned into 10, then 20. We talked about books, movies, how lonely life can be even when you have everything. I found myself opening up to him in ways I didn't expect. I wasn't just a delivery girl to him anymore, and he wasn't just another rich man behind a fancy door. He was becoming familiar. And honestly, I started looking forward to those deliveries more than I wanted to admit. It wasn't long before I noticed the pattern. Every few days, he'd place an order, sometimes big, sometimes small. Once it was just a loaf of bread and a bottle of water. I knew he didn't need those things. What he wanted was the conversation. And honestly, so did I. Each visit felt warmer, easier. I stopped rushing through my drops at his place. He'd meet me at the door, smile already waiting, and we'd talk like old friends. Sometimes I'd sit on the porch swing with him for a few minutes before heading to my next delivery. Sometimes he'd walk me back to my car, rain or shine. One evening, he told me about his wife. She passed away 2 years ago. Cancer. You could feel the hurt in his voice when he talked about her. "She made this house feel alive," he said. "Now it's just quiet." I didn't know what to say, so I just listened. Sometimes that's all someone really needs. I learned he wasn't just rich, he was ridiculously rich. Tech billionaire, early investor, the kind of money that changes generations, but he never acted superior. He never made me feel small. If anything, he made me feel like I was the only one in the room who wasn't pretending. And little by little, I let my guard down. I started talking about my life, my mom's health problems, how tired I was of barely scraping by, how I used to dream about owning a bakery. He listened like my story mattered, like I mattered. I used to dread deliveries, counting the minutes until I could go home. But with him, I started wishing the route would take just a little longer, because for the first time, someone saw me as more than my job. It was raining hard that evening. I almost called out of work, but bills don't wait for weather. His name popped up on my delivery list again. I smiled without meaning to. I grabbed my raincoat and headed out. By the time I reached his house, I was soaked. My hair clung to my face. My shoes were squishing with every step. I knocked, shivering, hoping to just drop off and go. But when the door opened, he looked at me with real concern. "You're freezing," he said. "Come inside, just for a minute." I hesitated. This wasn't part of the job, but his voice was gentle, and honestly, I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. I stepped in. The warmth hit me like a hug. He handed me a towel and some dry socks. Yes, socks, still in the package. "I order extras," he said with a shrug. We both laughed. He made us tea, and we sat on the couch, me in his oversized sweater he insisted I wear, both of us listening to the rain hit the windows. That night, we didn't talk about work or grief or money. We talked about childhood memories, favorite songs, secret fears. At one point, I said something. I don't even remember what. And he reached over and gently took my hand. I froze. I didn't pull away, but I didn't know what it meant either. He didn't try anything. He just held it, warm, still, quiet. I looked at him, and suddenly, he didn't feel like the man behind the door anymore. He felt like someone I could fall for. That night, when I finally stood to leave, he walked me to the door like always. But this time, I looked back, and he was still standing there, watching me like I was someone worth waiting for. After that night, something shifted inside me. I couldn't stop thinking about him, about the way he listened, the way he looked at me like I wasn't just passing through his life, but somehow becoming a part of it. It scared me more than I wanted to admit. See, people like him don't end up with women like me. That's what I told myself, over and over. I kept waiting for the catch, for him to get bored, for the kindness to wear off. I had built walls around my heart, not because I didn't want love, but because I didn't believe I deserved the kind of love that saw me, all of me, and stayed anyway. I talked to my best friend about him. She looked at me like I was crazy. A billionaire? Girl, be for real. Don't catch feelings for a fantasy. And I got it. She was trying to protect me. But what she didn't understand was he never made me feel like a fantasy. He made me feel real, like I wasn't just surviving anymore, like maybe I could breathe. Still, I tried to pull away. I skipped his delivery once, switched shifts with someone else, told myself I needed space. He didn't text, he didn't call, but then, the next week, I saw his name on my route again. When I arrived, he was at the door waiting like always. He didn't ask where I'd been. He just said, "It's good to see you." Like he understood I needed time. Like he'd been hoping I'd come back, but wasn't gonna push me. That's when I realized this wasn't about money or pity or some short-lived spark. This was something gentle, patient, honest. He didn't try to change me. He didn't make big gestures or promises. He just kept showing up, quietly, consistently, like love does when it's real. And I started to believe maybe I didn't have to run. Maybe I was allowed to be loved by someone good. Maybe my past didn't disqualify me from something beautiful. So I stopped running. I stopped hiding behind fear. And I started letting him in, for real this time. It happened on a Friday. I had just dropped off his groceries like usual, and as I turned to leave, he asked, "Would you maybe like to have dinner with me sometime?" His voice was soft, almost nervous, like he wasn't sure if he was crossing a line. My heart skipped, not because he was rich, but because he asked like I mattered. I hesitated. Like, a date? He smiled. Yeah, a real one. No bags of groceries involved. I didn't answer right away. I just nodded, probably too quickly, and then walked off trying to hide my smile. That weekend we made it happen. No five-star restaurants, no red carpets, just him, me, and his cozy kitchen. He cooked pasta with homemade sauce. I offered to help, but he said, "Just sit and be spoiled for once." We ate at a little table near the window. Candlelight flickered, and music played softly in the background, some old soul classics. He told stories about traveling, about how lonely money can feel when there's no one to share it with. I told him how I used to pretend my microwave dinners were gourmet meals when I was little. We laughed, and for a moment, it felt like we'd known each other for years. After dinner, he asked me to dance, right there in the kitchen, barefoot, plates still on the table. I said yes. We swayed to the music, quiet and close. Then he whispered, "You're not just delivering groceries. You've delivered something I didn't know I was missing." I didn't reply. I just leaned my head against his chest and let my heart answer for me. Falling for him in private was easy, but facing the world with him, that was something else. The first time we went out in public together, it wasn't planned. We just decided to grab coffee on a lazy Sunday morning. I threw on jeans, a hoodie, no makeup, didn't even think twice. But the moment we walked into that little cafe, every head turned. I felt it. The stares, the whispers, the confusion in people's eyes, like they couldn't understand what he was doing with me. He noticed it too. I could feel his hand tighten around mine. He didn't let go, not even when someone actually came up and asked if we were working together, like I was his assistant or something. He calmly replied, "No, she's the best part of my life." Just like that, no shame, no hesitation. But it got to me. I won't lie. I started questioning again. Was I embarrassing him? Was I dragging him down? I didn't grow up with yachts or summer homes or expensive schools. My childhood memories were food stamps and heat shutoffs. I didn't fit into his world, and deep down, I was scared his world would eventually push me out. We had a long talk that night. I told him how I felt, like the whole world was looking at me, judging me, wondering what I was doing on his arm. And he said something I'll never forget. I spent years surrounded by people who smiled to my face and counted my money behind my back. You were the first person who looked at me and saw me. Not my house, not my account, just me. That's when I realized it didn't matter how loud the world was outside. What mattered was how quiet and safe it felt when we were together. He didn't want a woman to fit his world. He wanted a woman who made it worth living in. And from that moment on, I stopped worrying about what people thought, because the way he looked at me, in coffee shops, on sidewalks, in quiet rooms with no one watching, that was real. And real love doesn't need permission from anyone else. A year passed before I even realized it. That's the thing about real love. It doesn't come crashing in like a storm. It grows slowly, steadily, like sunlight creeping through the blinds, until suddenly the whole room is bright and warm, and you're just standing there, wondering how you ever lived in the dark. We built a quiet life together. It wasn't fancy or flashy, just movie nights, dancing in the kitchen, long drives with no destination, deep talks at 2 a.m., and laughter, so much laughter. I found myself again, not just the tired, worn out version of me, the real me, the girl who dreamed of baking, who loved poetry, who once believed in love. He never tried to fix me. He just stood by me while I fixed myself, and that, more than anything, made me fall in love with him. Then, one afternoon, he placed another grocery order, but this time, it wasn't through the app. He texted me directly, "Need a special delivery. Come if you can." I pulled up to his house, like so many times before, but something felt different. The porch lights were twinkling. Music was playing softly through the open window. And there he was, standing at the front door in the same sweater I wore that rainy night, holding a small brown paper bag. I walked up, laughing. "You're still pretending you need groceries?" He smiled and handed me the bag. "Check the label." Inside was a single item, a tiny velvet box with a handwritten note. "You delivered groceries and gave me back my heart. Now, let me give you mine forever." I looked up, and there he was, kneeling on the same step where we first met. "Marry me?" he asked. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I was too busy laughing, smiling, shaking my head at how beautiful life can be when you least expect it. I said yes, not because he was a billionaire, but because somehow he turned a delivery girl's life into the love story she never thought she'd get to live. It's been 2 years since that proposal, and every morning I still wake up next to him, wondering how this became my life. We didn't have a giant wedding, just a small ceremony in his backyard, under the same tree we used to sit beside during my deliveries. My mom cried. His friends flew in from all over the world, but he only had eyes for me. I wore a dress I bought on sale and baked our wedding cake myself. It wasn't perfect, but it was us. Now we split our time between his big city home and a little cottage by the lake, my favorite place on earth. He still works, but at his own pace. I finally opened that bakery I used to dream about. He helped me fund it, but made sure it had my name on the window. Nia's Table. More than anything, we give back. Together, we started a foundation for women like me, single moms, hard workers, dreamers. Every time I see one of them walk through the bakery doors for a fresh start, I remember where I came from. I remember the girl who once delivered groceries just to survive. He still tells people I saved his life. But the truth is, we saved each other. We still dance in the kitchen. We still talk late into the night. And every now and then, I catch him watching me like he did that very first day. Like I'm a miracle he didn't see coming. Because that's what love does. It doesn't always arrive in a limo or through a dating app. Sometimes it shows up at your front door, soaking wet, carrying a bag of groceries, and it changes your life forever. So, yeah, I was just a black girl delivering groceries, but now I'm delivering love every day to a man who thought he had everything until he found me. If you felt something, share this story. And remember, love doesn't need a mansion. Sometimes it just needs a doorstep.